When it comes to playing into flying characters, each role typically has their own question. If you're a tank player, your question is, how do you even tank into flyers? Like, what do you do? If you're a DPS player, your question might be, how do you play into flyers if your supports are always getting KO'd, or if your tank gets KO'd and there's no space being created for you? And if you're a strategist, the question usually is, how do we even heal anybody if we're constantly getting hit by the flying characters? Well, don't worry. By the end of this video, you'll have all those questions answered and more. As always, in videos like these, timestamps down below if you want to only look at tank, DPS, or support. But if you want to get big-brained, you would just watch all of them, right? Also, side note, no, I'm not on comms, and no, I'm not pre-made. All my videos on this channel are usually like that, so that way I can give you guys the most knowledge possible without having to rely on anybody on your team. So first things first, let's start off with tank. How do you tank into flying characters? A lot of people think you need to play Magneto, you need to play Emma, you can play whatever you want. Your job as a tank is to create space, and you need to do it in a way that accommodates your team. We'll talk more about that in a second. But as I said, you can play anything that you want. I like playing Captain America, so even if they run 3 flyers, I'm playing Captain America. I don't care. But that's just how I play. And so do not feel like you need to swap just to deal with certain comps. Yes, it makes it easier, but you do not need to if you don't want to. Doors open, just like normal, you're getting pelted with just a ton of shots from flying characters. That's how it works. Now this game, they have 4 flyers. I mean, 4 is overkill, let's be honest. But how do we deal with this? Now, as I said before, I'm not on comms with this tank. This tank just played it pretty well, and I wanted to highlight this. First things first, is you need to understand that when you are tanking, you need to make sure that you're tanking your team in a spot that they're not going to be pelted. Each map, not just this one, every single map has cover in it. Every single map has a spot for you on the ground to be able to hide and get away from being shot from the air. Some have more than others, but that's how it works. And most of the time, if you are playing flying characters, you don't have a lot of cover. Look how much space they have, and what can you really get behind? I guess you can get behind this, but should you get pushed out, where are you gonna go? You're still gonna be shot. Like, you can't really go anywhere. Maybe you go down like that and then walk backwards, but there's a lot more finessing a flying character has to do to avoid danger. And most of them really aren't that great. Let's be honest, most people who play flying characters kind of just spam shots. So you can get away with a lot going against them. So we're gonna be going and we're gonna be figuring out, how do we tank into this, right? Well, first things first, we can't walk straight through. This is just death, right? This is just KO central if you walk through the middle. So we have to figure out, how can we get to the point without taking as much damage? Remember, wherever you're tanking, your team has to follow, specifically the strategist. So you have to be careful about that. This player decides to go through here. What does this allow us to do? It allows our team to get in cover in these buildings, and these walls cannot be broken. We can also then take this and move forward. Your main goal as a tank when you're tanking into flyers is playing slowly. You do not want to play fast. This is something that a lot of players get wrong, and they'll walk out KO, walk out KO, walk out KO. You see this player playing very, very slow. Now, I personally wouldn't take this angle where she is. I would probably walk this way, but it's neither here nor there. This is just, I felt like this player played it really well, and I wanted to, again, highlight it. So you see, they're trying to do their best to make their way forward while allowing us to have cover. Now, you'll notice how this player did not look behind her. This player did not try to take the flyers out. Your job is not to do that. Realistically, not many tanks can take out a flyer. They're way too far, or they're way too fast. There's nothing you can do about it. So this is why I said it doesn't matter if you're playing Magneto or if you're playing Hulk. It does not matter what you're playing, because they're not really your job. Your job is to allow your team to have the opportunity to take out the flyers. Now you see she's getting shot. She overstepped her boundaries, and that's what happens sometimes. You know, she didn't play slow enough and she overstepped her boundaries. So we'll come back out and we'll try to do the same thing. But you don't want to be frustrated at things like this. You see how far we got just with us pushing the side. So you don't want to change that. It was pretty good. We could go to the right and we could circle around, right? We could just go this way and circle around and get in there. It's possible. But as I said, I'm not pre-made with these players. So I try to do the things that they want to do because it's just easier for everybody without having to have a formation around me, you know? And you see, she's not going she's just playing slow. Being in cover means that you're taking the least amount of resources from your healers, and you're taking the least amount of resources from your DPS. If the DPS can shoot the healers, while the healers or if the DPS can shoot the flying characters, right? So let's just say if we have Star-Lord here shooting him, don't know why you would shoot that far with Star-Lord, but work with me. If the Star-Lord trades, he's going to end up taking damage, which means that if that healer has to heal you as the tank, as well as a Star-Lord, it might not go well. But because the Emma Frost, because you, the player, the tank will be tanking in such a secluded area, you're limiting how much damage you take. This means the bonus healing can go towards the DPS to take out the flyers. It's a cog in the machine type of thing. You tanking in a spot that allows your team to have cover, but also makes it so that you take less damage is what you want as a tank on any map when you're going into flying characters. So again, they're focusing on doing damage here. They walk out a little bit too far, they get KO'd again. Once again, it's not really my job to hound this player or to tell her what to do. I'm just trying to do my best to play with her. She's going in the same spot again. We're doing our best to heal. Right? Playing it slow, playing it slow. Take one out, take another out. And although it took us about a minute or two to get to point, we ended up getting the point. We ended up securing the point, and we were able to move forward with the match. This is what happens when you tank properly into flyers. 1, play slow. 2, tank in a spot that allows you to maximize your team's healing and damage because they are in cover with you. They're not in the open getting shot, they're in cover. The third thing is going to be make sure that you're taking the least amount of damage as possible so that your supports can give the resources to the DPS, which undoubtedly are taking more fire because they're trying to take out the flyers for you. That's how you play into a team, and that's how you tank into a team. Whether it's Emma Frost, Captain America, Thor, whatever you're playing, minimize your damage, allow your healers to heal the DPS, and I guarantee you, you'll be dealing with flyers in no time. It is not your job, and it does suck sometimes when it feels like you're helpless, but that's just the nature of games with roles in them. Sometimes some roles can't handle other roles in any specific moment. Now, there are some opportunities that you've seen where like Emma could get close enough to Iron Man here and take him out. Iron Man was just in a bad spot. And that happens. You're scanning for that, but you're not forcing that. You can't force mistakes. Just wait for them to happen from the flyers. So that's how you tank into flying characters as a tank. Let's move on to the next role. Moving on to the second role, DPS. So how do you play DPS into flying characters? It's kind of similar to just playing DPS in the other characters. The only difference is you need to make sure that you're in cover a little bit more often. You see this player is not really taking the chances. They're just trying to shoot in a way that backs them off. When you're playing DPS into flying characters, your goal isn't necessarily to take them out. Your goal is to force them away. So you're going to be creating space like a tank would, except you're doing it with your abilities and you're doing it with your bullets or with whatever you're throwing at them. That's the main goal when you're playing DPS. So you see when, I always want to call this dude Soldier. He literally looks like one. But when you're playing the Punisher here, you can see that whenever he takes sights, they have to move and respect it. You see, Jeff is shooting, Punisher is shooting, Storm is shooting, and they have to respect it. The goal isn't to KO them because it's very hard to do that. You're just trying to move them out the way. So this allows for your tank to play the game. That's all that you're doing. Now you'll notice that this Punisher decided to put his turret out right here. This is huge. Why is it important that we put our turret here? Well, one of the main things, well, it doesn't really need to be here. It can be anywhere. But one of the main things that I stress when playing into teams is to make them turn their camera. If we decide to follow this tank and we're all in this area, right? Well, guess what? The whole entire team will be able to just rain fire on all of us. But if you're playing a DPS, it's important for you to take angles. This is what we call off angles. Off angles are angles that are not the same as where the majority of your team is. That's just kind of how I describe it personally. So when we're taking off angles, it has to have them respond, right? Because we're in such a weird angle for the Punisher, she can't cross this threshold. If she does, she will be shot. So she has to sit here and play the game here. And now she could still fight the enemy team, cool. But if she wants to try to do this to get back to her team, she's cut off. We basically made it so that she cannot move. We paralyzed her. This is what you do as a DPS. Now, if this Punisher were to be on foot and continue to move, he would actually come this way. And he would be here. This will force her out, making her go backwards, or he would just KO her. Because not only is she paralyzed, but it is a flying character. If you have nowhere to go, you're pretty much easy pickings. So this is why it's important to take those off angles. As you see, as soon as she steps out, she gets shot. You're making it so that the flyer has a really hard time doing their job. That's pretty much how DPS works in general. You're doing your best to make it so that the obstacle in your team's way has a very hard time doing what they're trying to do to defend. In this case, it's the flying characters. Yes, he can't, shoot all the flying characters because there's 4, but, he can do his best to alleviate some of the stress. So he gets out, he keeps going, right? Team gets destroyed, so he has to back up, which is fine. And he just waits. You can't do anything about it. You gotta retreat and wait. When the fight is lost, just reset. Reset, try again. Shoot what you can. It's not about shooting specific targets when you're playing DPS. It's about shooting what targets you can realistically shoot. Yes, the priority are gonna be the flying characters, but in that given situation, the only one he can shoot is Venom. So shoot Venom. It's not about, oh, I need to shoot the specific character because I have to get him out for my team. No. Whatever keeps you safe, that's what you shoot at, period, until the opportunity arises. And this goes for characters like Star-Lord as well, because I know we have a Star-Lord on our team. The same exact thing, right? Star-Lord can't shoot from this far. He can, but it doesn't really do a lot of damage. He has to get close. How do you get close? Try to do your best to go through, try to do your best to flank, and when you're in a situation like this where you're in cover, you can start fighting them. What is it going to do? If I shoot here, it's going to make these 2 characters move back because they don't want to get shot. That allows your tank to continue to move forward and take space. One of the important factors when it comes to tanking that a lot of people don't realize is that when you're playing flying characters, you can't hold space. So if they're getting shot at and the tank is walking forward, what do? They can't sit on the ground. They're just giving up space. But it's up to you to allow the tank to do that. And it's very hard to do if, you're not doing damage to them. But as soon as he shoots the flyers, what happens? They have to move. They have to move. But now he's low. So the fact that he's low means that the healer has to focus on healing the flying character, which is going to be Mantis, right? Ultron can't really heal himself unless he goes into his own drone. So Mantis has to then take a pause of what she's doing and try to look up and try to heal. This is what happens when you get flyers low. They tend to be really hard to heal too, not just shoot out the sky, but healers just have a hard time dealing with it. So because he did damage, it allowed us to push up a little bit further because they're low. Again, he's making them reposition. When they reposition, that allows them to move forward. Now, personally, I wouldn't be going this way. I would continue to try to get an off angle, and I would continue to try to shoot. Because if we're here and we're shooting, eventually it's going to cause them to retreat and move backwards. So I would just continue to shoot from off angles. But, again, it's not my place to tell these people what to do. He's still doing a great job, in my opinion. So Emma gets taken out again. We're going to have to be careful, right? We retreat, we back up, we reset, get Emma back, and we go. There you go. He starts ulting. And just like that, we ended up pushing them out. He ulted, got one out the sky. That made everybody kind of like panic, right? His ultimate makes you panic. You have no real cover, so you do have to drop out like that so that you can block. But if you do this, you can't help your team. That's the downside of a flyer. You don't really have a lot of great ways to play if you're not playing in the air. So although we did end up in a situation where he ended up getting KO'd, remember, the goal was to try to get them out the sky to create space for the team to push. Once he did that, the team capitalized on it, all pushed together and started just taking them down one by one by one. All you need is a pick, and that that Punisher provided everything that we needed. He provided the space by shooting them, getting them low, moving them over, and then he provided just an opening with his ultimate. This is what you're waiting on, and this is why I always tell tanks to play slow. Well, just all players to play slow when you're dealing with flyers. So the main things I want to stress when you are playing DPS, your goal is not to KO the flyers. Your goal is just to shoot them so that they move. If you continuously do that, you can kind of herd them into where you want them to go. As I said before, if I were playing the Star-Lord and I was here, I would shoot them. Oops, my bad. Oh my lord. Okay. I would shoot them. right? And they would be hurting themselves here. If my team is over here and I'm here, they have no other direction other than going backwards. This is what we call herding. You're herding the enemy team like you would herd cattle. You're herding them. You're herding them into a location that allows your team to get the KOs. Flyers have a very hard time when it comes to being in really closed off spaces like this, and that's why we were able to capitalize. When the Punisher started ulting, everybody flocked to being under here, but you can't go nowhere. You're stuck. You can't go anywhere in the buildings. You're stuck. You're stuck. You're stuck. You're stuck. And that's how it usually is. So either they don't have cover or they're in closed spaces. That's the downside to Flyers most of the time. So that is going to be your goal as a DPS. Once again, just to briefly summarize it, you're going to be looking to create space by using off angles and shooting them. When you shoot them, it hurts them in specific directions, and this allows for your tank to push forward and your team to start moving towards the point. Next role we're going to talk about is going to be Strategist. So when you're playing Strategist, how do you even play into flying characters if you're constantly getting hit, your DPS isn't taking the Flyers out, your tank is KOing? Like, what do you do? Well, I'm going to explain it right now. So first things first, when we're talking about healing, there's 3 types of healers in this game, and I'm going to explain them now. We have the burst healer, we have the sustain healer, and then we have the hybrid healer. So a burst healer is kind of like Adam Warlock. He's a very great burst healer. Snaps his fingers, you get a ton of HP, right? That's what a burst healer is. A hybrid healer is something like Cloak and Dagger. She has the ability to burst heal with her bubble, but also she has great sustain when it comes to using her curtain, and obviously when it comes to using her auto attacks. Then an actual straight sustain character is usually something like Rocket or Jeff, where you're more or less healing slowly. Mantis is another great example. So those are the 3 types of healing that you have. Based on the enemy team, you want to choose the right healer for it. All right, now that we got the different types of healers out of the way, now we want to focus on another thing, and this is going to be called pocketing. If you don't know what pocketing is, it basically means you're putting a lot of heals into a specific character continuously. You're never going to stop the healing. You're pocketing them. You constantly heal them. This is important when you're dealing with poke comps, because poke comps are beat by sustained damage. You need to continuously heal them so the poke doesn't really affect them as much. So that's what we're going to do this entire match. So we're going to go up, and we're just going to do our best to try to pocket anybody who's healing. Now you notice that I'm actually reloading quite a bit here. Why am I reloading when I'm not out of bullets? Well, if you're playing a healer that needs bullets, when you get really low, let's just say I'm playing Rocket, he has 8, right? And we're sitting on 2 out of 8, and Emma is really, really low. I'm gonna have to reload mid-fight, and that reload could take about 1 second to 1.5 seconds, maybe even 2 seconds for some characters. And that means that she could KO within that time frame. But if I'm reloading constantly before she gets into that fight, maybe I shoot 1 or 2 orbs, I reload, this means I have 8 shots, and should I need to continuously heal the entire fight, I have way more shots than I would have had if I just never reloaded. So that's why I reload more frequently than an average player that you might see. So I'm doing my best to pocket. I'm getting focused here, so you have to be very careful. We go back into cover. Now, because I had to go into cover, right, the tank wasn't paying attention to line of sight. She walked way over here, meaning that I can't see her anymore. Now, because I'm playing Rocket, I could have really weird locations that I can just kind of hide in and heal from across the map, but not every healer can do that, and so that's why I'm not doing that. I want you to be able to walk out of this guide with knowledge on Mantis or Invisible Woman or like characters that need to be closer, right? How do you play into that? So that's why I'm closer than I would be with like a actual Rocket game. So she didn't pay attention to line of sight. She didn't pay attention to me getting attacked, and then she ended up being KO'd for it. It's unfortunate, but it happens. When that happens, you need to back up, wait for them to come out and reset. It's about playing slow. Whenever you are playing into anything that's poke heavy, you have to play slow and you have to move from cover to cover, basically. We're just waiting. And you see I am pocketing. I'm making sure that anybody that gets low, I'm healing. I'm not waiting. I'm trying to keep you all topped off as much as possible. Because she's over here fighting, I decide to move over here. I'm very aware of all the fights happening. You see how I'm trying to heal everybody at once? This isn't really an ideal spot for a healer, but you know, you got to do what you got to do when your team's all over the place. But I'm not shooting, I'm pocketing. Now you might be like, well, Poppin', this is what Rocket players always do. They AFK heal. This is not that, okay? Do not be ashamed to pocket. There are comps you have to pocket. If there's a Black Panther diving your backline, you have to pocket. If it's a Spider-Man, you have to pocket. If you're being poked down by flyers, you have to pocket. This goes for every character that you play, or every character that you play as a healer. Sometimes you just have to pocket. So we're doing our best. Now our Jeff switched to Adam Warlock. He's not really a good pocket healer. Obviously, he's a burst healer, but burst into poke isn't that great. He's just going at him so he can take out the flyers or contests. You see how she's fighting, still doing my best to pocket. Still doing my best to pocket. Anybody that's low, I'm trying to pocket. I'm trying to remain safe and pocket. I'm not doing anything other than healing. She got a little bit too overextended and she ended up KOing. It happens, what are you gonna do? She comes back with the res that I have, but you see, I'm still pocketing. I haven't shot one bullet because I'm trying to make sure that we're all topped off. Poke comps only work if you don't heal. This is why having 3 healers is really good, because it just relieves a lot of the stress of having to pocket and everybody's just less stressed out. I don't like 3 healers, but you know, it is what it is. It does relieve a lot of the stress from divers or poke comps such as this one. So how do you pocket properly? Well, you need to be in a situation where you can see all the characters. If you're playing an invisible woman right here, well, it's going to be very difficult, right? What you'd want to do is you want to put your shield back here, and then you would fight forward and you would heal your tank. That way, if they need health, they can stand on your shield and then you can heal the person in front of you. Every character in this game has specific abilities to where they can heal multiple targets at once. No character is really focused on one target, not even Ultron. The AoE is still healing multiple people, right? And he can switch it whenever he wants to. That's what you're looking forward to do. How can you get the most out of your heals? With Rocket, I know that I need to line him up, so that's what I'm doing. And I'm just pocketing. You're just pocketing. You don't do anything else. You just pocket. When you get your ult, that's when you make a play. So I pop my ult down in cover so that they can't shoot it. My team was able to make a play off of it. And through that, we're able to push forward and we're able to just decimate their team. Now you see that our team got low. The Punisher got low. We know that she's over here, but it's not my job to deal with that. They shouldn't be caught. They should have been moving with us. The point, we got picks. The point is open. We move forward. We do not take time to turn around and try to heal everybody. Your job as a strategist is not to heal everybody. Your job as a strategist is to heal whatever is helping you get to that objective. We just want to fight. We need to pressure. We need to push. So I'm trying to turn around and heal if I can, but it's not my problem. It's not my problem. You know, if you are out of line of sight, I'm not about to go to you. We need to make sure that we have as much pressure here because this is where we're winning the fight. So you have to identify when it's important to heal everybody or when it's important to heal a specific person or a group of people, because that's going to get you to win the match. So because we were able to do that, we played slow, we pocketed, and we just relaxed and waited basically for our moment. We were able to win the fight. Again, this is something that a lot of players mix up in high ranks and in low ranks. They feel like the way you win as a healer is to just pocket, spam, heals. That's not how it works. You need to do damage versus certain comps more often. You need to heal versus certain comps more often. And this is going to be what separates you from an okay healer and a great healer, or a strategist if you prefer that word. Just a brief one-word summary for all the roles. Tanks, you're looking to play slow. Looking to play slow and move from cover to cover with your team. If you're playing DPS, you're looking to take more off angles to herd them and corral them into areas that allow your team to push or even get KOs off of them. If you're playing a strategist, your goal is to pocket as much as you can until you get your ultimate. Once you get your ultimate, use it to your best ability to create space for your team and to push forward and win the fight. If you're struggling with tanking, DPSing, or even playing strategist, I have videos on my channel with all roles and tips and tricks for everything. So I highly recommend you check that out. A lot of the people that I do help end up climbing exponentially. So please check them out and you'll be well on your way to reaching your goals. If you guys would like a coaching session, link down below. If you would like a free VOD review, link also down below as well. I give free VOD reviews for players. Until next time, you know what I always say. Look, you guys are doing what? Hopping often. With laughter.